Welcome everyone to my April 18th movie collection update. I hope you are all having a good Friday on this Good Friday. I got the day off work for the holiday weekend, got 2 busy days ahead of me with some family parties and Easter stuff I need to run to. So what better time than now to sit down and do my April movie collection update. We've got actually one VHS, a good chunk of Blu-rays, and even a chunk of DVDs this time for a lot of stuff that has never seen the light of day beyond DVD. So without further ado, getting right into it, let us start with the VHS. Now, I think this did have a very limited DVD release by Image, but it's going for like $70 online. So I'm just like, yeah, when the VHS I can get for $5, I'm not going to be paying $70. There's not really many movies I would pay $70 for off the bat anyways. So I got the VHS of this UK-based movie. Over in the UK, it's actually called Lighthouse. And here it was released as Dead of Night, which was cool because as a kid, I was always a Hollywood video guy. I'd been to Blockbuster, but I was always Hollywood Video because that's what was down the street. And turns out this is actually a Hollywood videotape, so that's cool. But I didn't really know too much of what to expect out of this, but I ended up really liking it a lot. You know, it's low budget and, you know, there's nothing crazy about it that you haven't seen in other movies, but I have never heard anyone talk about this. You can hardly find anything about this online, whether you're looking it up as Dead of Night, whether you're looking it up as Lighthouse. There's almost nothing about this out there anywhere, and it was really cool. Like, you have kind of a cool looking villain who most of the movie is in the shadows. You have a scene in a bathroom stall that is surprisingly effective, both with being suspenseful and also being kind of funny in a way, and the climax of this goes absolutely insane. It goes way harder than it should have. But no, for a movie I've never heard of, never heard anyone talk about, this was actually a pretty solid atmospheric watch. I could easily picture this being, like, you could watch this in black and white, and it would feel like an old school kind of horror thing, sans some of the gore that's in this. But yeah, see, you have companies like Vinegar Syndrome and all this stuff that release just the biggest piles of shit that anyone has ever seen. And yet, something like this has zero audience. Go figure. So if anyone's watching this, let's give some love to Dead of Night, aka Lighthouse. And throughout the past year, I've started to collect some of these documentary series. I had never even heard of this show. I don't know what network it was on, what streaming service it was on, I don't know. But last summer, I got the one they did on The Simpsons. For Christmas, I got the one they did about the Fast and the Furious franchise, and now that I saw they released this, I absolutely could not turn down the Icons Unearthed James Bond, going through the whole history of the James Bond franchise, from the novels to all the movies, and all the way up through No Time to Die. So this was covered after the most recent one, of course, before Amazon purchased the rights, which is one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen happen. They better not fuck up my James Bond. But this was awesome. You know, I've got nothing but positive things to say about all of these Icons Unearthed series, and as long as they keep putting them out for subject matter I'm interested in, I'm absolutely going to keep buying them. And yeah, everything in this, from, I think my favorite interview in here was George Lazenby, just because he was talking about all the women he slept with and all the kids he never knew he had. I'm like, Jesus. But it's interesting. You learn a lot about the franchise and all the movies and a lot of the behind the scenes with all of it. So definitely, if you're a Bond fan, seek out Icons Unearthed on James Bond. Now, this is one that I saw in the theater this year, and I was one of the lucky few. I avoided all trailers. I avoided all marketing. Not that I was even avoiding them. I don't even think I was paying attention to this because I had never even heard of this until people started saying really nice things about the movie. It's really good. It's really underrated. It's really funny. And so I just kind of on a blind whim went to the theater one day to see this. I had no idea what the plot was. Never saw any trailers. So I truly saw Companion blind. And I am very glad I did, because there were several times in this where I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh shit. Like, this, it's not really a horror movie. There's a couple like kills and like gory bits in, but I would not consider this a horror. It's a sci-fi comedy romance thriller thing, but it's wickedly entertaining. It was really funny. I was laughing a lot through this. It really turns into this weird like version of the Terminator by the end of it. And you got Jack Quaid in there being, he's playing the same kind of character he usually always plays, but I always like seeing Jack Quaid, even since he was on Red Letter Media, which truthfully was my introduction to him. But no, if you've never heard of this, you don't know anything about it, definitely go into it blind, because I had a lot of fun with Companion. Another one I saw in the theaters last December, right around the Christmas season, and prior to, when did they announce this? Like October, November? I had no idea this was in production. I had no idea this was coming. I had no idea it was being made. And so when I saw the poster pop up on Facebook, I'm like, oh, man, I wish that was real. And then I saw the page that posted it. I'm like, wait, this is real? And it's because I've always been, ever since I was 12 years old, which is the wrong age for this fucking show, but ever since I was 12, I loved the Trailer Park Boys. Even long before Netflix bought them. Like, I've always been a big fan of Trailer Park Boys. And I had no idea a fourth movie was coming, let alone one that's this different. And I'm glad they did a physical media release so I could pick up Standing on the Shoulders of Kitties, the Bubbles and the Shit Rockers story, in which they basically made a fake music biopic on Bubbles and this band, the Shit Rockers, that he assembles after he gets tired of playing in retirement homes for people. He recruits all these guys. Randy is their roadie. And then in the third act, you really get Ricky and Julian coming in for a very memorable climactic sequence in Abbey Road Studios. It's by far the most different thing Trailer Park Boys have ever done. It's definitely a little bit of a vanity project for Bubbles, Mike Smith, but it doesn't take away the enjoyment of this at all. My only gripe is I wish Ricky and Julian had a bigger part in it, but at the same time, they're trying to make a very different movie. It's a Bubbles story. So Ricky and Julian, they're in it at the beginning, in the first act, pretty much absent the entire middle, and then they come back for the third act. But if you're a fan of Trailer Park Boys, well, odds are you've probably already seen this then. But if not, and if you're looking for just a goofy, weird-ass music docudrama, mockumentary type, Trailer Park Boys always have you covered, and it is different than the regular series, so it's just seeing the range. And I'd be okay. If they ever call it quits one day, I would love to see like a fifth Trailer Park Boys movie that's just the finale. Even though it's really hard to do without Mr. Leahy, rest in peace John Dunsworth. And then Mardi Gras came and went, and I've never been to Louisiana, I've never been to New Orleans, but when Mardi Gras was coming up in early March, I was like, this sounds like kind of a fun 80s movie, let's check it out. So I got this Kino from one of their sales, Blu-ray of The Big Easy with Dennis Quaid. So we're going from Jack Quaid to Dennis Quaid now, and this was a very strange, like, cop thriller that's also like a drama, that's also kind of a comedy, because there's a lot of weird shit in there. It reminded me a lot of the Roy Scheider movie Night Game, which is another film that I really enjoy. It was horribly mismarketed as if it was a horror film, which it isn't, but I love that movie. It's kind of the same thing where it's just an 80s cop noir, but it's goofy and it's kind of silly and it's entertaining. Ned Beatty's in it. I always love Ned Beatty, and seeing Ned Beatty go all Cajun for this is a treat. You've got a very early John Goodman appearance in there. He was really young. So for a relatively blind buy, it's, the tone is a little all over the place because of the several different plot threads, some of which are lighthearted, some of which are not lighthearted at all, that are going on during this. But, to get your 80s cop noir silly movie fix, I enjoyed The Big Easy. And then my boy Statham, The Beekeeper that came out last year, is one of my favorite movies to come out recently because of how ridiculous and stupid it was. So I saw A Working Man in the theater couple weeks ago, which wasn't as good, but it was still fine. And so I'm trying to see, like, Jason Statham is one of the only actors. He plays the same exact character in every movie he's ever been in. But for some reason, with him, it doesn't bother me. With him, it's like I want that. I just want to see Jason Statham being Statham. He's the only person I could say that for. So I'm trying to go through now and just see all these other miscellaneous Statham movies. And I started with Safe, because I remember way back in high school when this came out, and this says 2011, so when I would have been a freshman. Because I remember my best friend Nick Schupert, he went through a phase where he was watching all these Jason Statham movies. And I remember him talking about Safe a lot, way back 12 years or so ago. And I just never got around to seeing it. So now I've seen Safe, and this one's okay. You get some good action, you get a good Statham performance, but, you have a lot of different villains. You got kind of a complex story going on. It's not as silly, it's not as madcap as, like, The Beekeeper, or especially the Crank movies. But, he does good. If you want to see a serviceable Jason Statham action thriller, you got a little appearance by James Hong in there. Sadly, he does not interact with Statham, which would have been awesome. But for a Statham movie, it's a little teetering more towards the generic side, but I was still entertained, and I was still into watching it. Now, this one I was a little disappointed in because I had much higher hopes for it, and I like the premise, I like the cast, and I like these, trapped in a location, dealing with the elements, having to survive, and then this one even throws in killer alligators into the mix. So I'm in. And, it was thrilling, there were cool scenes, but at the end of the day, I thought this was dull. Crawl. Because it's like they had a half hour's worth of story to this. It's a dull looking movie because, it's in a hurricane, so everything's all gray and washed out. But it's like, okay, by the end, this movie just kept repeating itself. Okay, let's get to safety. Rah, there's an alligator attacking you. Okay, come on, we need to get somewhere and do this. And rah, there's an alligator attacking. Okay, now we have to do this, and okay, we're doing this. Rah, an alligator attack. It's like this whole movie is just like a repeat of just sequence of trying to get something done and then alligators attack. It's didn't do much for me, I'm afraid. Sorry, yeah, this one didn't do much for me. Sorry, Alexander Aja. Now this is another one I had never heard of, but I was sold by when I saw the cast. I'm like, okay, you got Kurt Russell, Matt Dillon, Jay Baruchel, Terrence Stamp. I'm like, what? And it's a heist movie, which I always like heist movies. So I hope it's fun. And it's The Art of the Steal, which is, again, it's like a heist movie, but I'd say the biggest genre in here, it's a comedy. It does not take itself seriously at all. There's a lot of moments in here that are just kind of goofy and silly. They have to smuggle this ancient Bible in an art sculpture of a vagina, and you got Kurt Russell being Kurt Russell. He plays a typical, like, cool, smarmy Kurt Russell character. Always great to see him in that. And Terrence Stamp is in a subplot with this rookie cop that they're always bickering back and forth together. It feels like a direct-to-video movie. It's low budget. It's not as... It tries to be flashy, and, it doesn't do anything you haven't seen in another movie, let alone probably done better. But I enjoyed the comedy. I enjoyed the cast. Kurt Russell, you could tell they're having a good time doing this. And yeah, if you like heist movie, like, this is way better than the one with Eddie Murphy, the Tower Heist. Like, I thought that one was a piece of shit. So I would much rather watch this than something like that. And same with this one. This was just kind of a blind buy, just a Top Gun looking kind of story set back in the days of the Vietnam War. But Danny Glover, Willem Dafoe, it's got a great cast, Tom Sizemore, Flight of the Intruder. And, it's more of a war story than Top Gun was, because, like I said, this is happening during Vietnam. But the cast really makes this work. Willem Dafoe in the 80s especially was always playing these really cool characters like this. Danny Glover, I always love seeing Danny Glover. And I was not as familiar with Brad Johnson, who's basically our lead of this, but he did really nice. Rosanna Arquette has a small appearance in there. But I'm a sucker for these war movies of these alpha guys and missions and the fighter pilots. And the actors and the characters definitely pushed this one above average. So I had a great time watching Flight of the Intruder. And now this one was a DVD to Blu-ray upgrade. I had it in a double feature with a John Ritter anthology horror movie called Terror Tract, which I thought was pretty terrible when all is said and done. But so it's funny, I was never intending on stopping at my movie store, nor was I intending on buying anything this day, but I was driving home from work, and they had our area in like an enhanced or a moderate risk of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. And they were supposed to hit like halfway through my drive home from work. And I've got about a 35-40 minute commute to work. So I'm like, it was a really thing. I was playing a game. I'm like, do I sit at work an extra half hour and wait for these severe thunderstorms and hailstorms, tornado warnings? Do I wait for, or do I try to beat it home? And me being me, I tried to beat it home. And then I'm about 15 minutes into my drive. I'm right by near where my movie store is, and my phone starts going off. There's a tornado warning, seek shelter. I'm like, fuck. Well, I'm not chancing it now. I'm not going any further. So I pulled into the strip mall. I happened to be right here where my movie store was, and I just ran in there. Within a matter of 2 minutes of me being inside the store, it went from daytime to nighttime. Like the clouds were just black. And you could see the street light. It was like night. And then hail just... And the sirens were going off. And I'm just like, thank God I happened to be here. And I pulled in here. So I sat in there for about 40 minutes just waiting out these storms. And I'm like, well, after all that, I better buy something. So I upgraded my DVD to Blu-ray of Cherry Falls, which is a really, really goofy fucking movie. It's borderline like a parody of slasher films, which is, I think, what it was supposed to be, but they tried to make it too serious. And they unfortunately cut a lot of the gore scenes out, because I remember when I first watched it on that DVD, you could tell, like, okay, it's very clear all of these kill scenes were just yanked out of the movie for gore, which, why? I don't... But you've got a killer going around killing all the virgins of the high school. It's like a whodunit, like a Scream type. And so you've got all these students. There's a line of dialogue where like the principal or the cop or someone says, "We're gonna have a goddamn fuck fest on our hand." And so the climax of the movie happens at this house where there's an orgy going on of everyone's trying to lose their virginity so they don't get killed by the killer. It's ridiculous and it's stupid, but it's hilarious. I had a lot of entertainment value out of that the first time I watched it, and it still holds up. And the last Blu-ray I have before going into the DVDs is from Kino. We've got, just because I was curious with the cast, speaking of James Bond, because you got Roger Moore and Anthony Perkins, and I'm like, that is one hell of a mix of people. It's this movie called Ffolkes, also known as North Sea Hijack. And because I had seen another Roger Moore standalone movie called Gold a few years back, which was okay. And that's kind of the same merit I give to this. It's okay. I love Anthony Perkins. I love Norman Bates. He is way miscast in this. You do not buy him serious as this terrorist leader. He's playing like a Hans Gruber type leader who's always on the phone making demands. And Anthony Perkins, his acting in it, like, again, I love Anthony Perkins, but he's way out of place in this. Roger Moore does good. I don't know how this movie would fly nowadays because Roger Moore is playing a character who has like 50 million cats and he hates women. Like his character just hates women and he openly says it. I'm just like, this is such a weird thing. Like it's kind of a slow burn. There's not a whole lot of action into it. So it's an interesting watch to see Roger Moore, Anthony Perkins in this period kind of film about oil rigs out in the ocean being hijacked and blown up. Ultimately not that interesting though, only if you're a curiosity watch for, like I said, Roger Moore or Anthony Perkins. Okay, then we've got some DVD. I've got one more Blu-ray, but it's at the end because it's a TV show. So we've got 5 DVDs here of all movies that are currently not available on Blu-ray. One of which is a 2024 film. Now, why we're releasing 2024 movies direct to DVD and not Blu-ray is beyond me. I will get to that one at the end. We've got a double double feature, because these movies are both double. We've got Double Take and Double Whammy. Double Take, a buddy movie. It was funny. There were a lot of scenes in it that admittedly did make me chuckle and laugh, but it's pretty generic. It plays by the buddy movie handbook. It has a very generic plot with a very generic villain storyline. Orlando Jones is always fun. I liked him in Evolution. I like seeing him in a lot of things. And Eddie Griffin was fucking insane in this. So they did the most with what they had. I just wish the movie they were in was not as generic as it is. And then this was a total blind buy, because I'm just like, okay, what is this weird... Dennis Leary, Steve Buscemi, Luis Guzman, I've never heard of this. Double Whammy, and it's a weird... I don't know how to even describe... It's described as a satirical, like, comedy about cop films. And that is true, but there is so much weird tonal whiplash, like between really serious shit and really goofy shit. And Dennis Leary, for the most part, plays his role a bit more restrained than what you're used to seeing out of Dennis Leary. But for all those reasons, which are also negatives, they're also strangely positives, because it makes it such a strange watch that you're just kind of like, okay, what is the story behind how this was made? Like, it's very clearly a post-Tarantino era script where everyone was trying to make their own, like, Tarantino style thing, which is exactly what this is. And like I said, some of it did make me laugh, and then some of it just had me sitting there like, huh. But I mean, I love Dennis Leary. I mean, he's great in it. Like, he's a little bit more restrained than usual, but I mean, it's a fine... It's an oddity. It's something that I'm like, well, that's something I never probably would have seen otherwise, so interesting. And now this one I only got because this and Dead of Night, aka Lighthouse, both had very similar plots of you have prisoners or juvenile delinquents that are being sent to a remote location who must have to fight against an evil for their lives. And this, I'm like, oh, this sounds right up my alley. It's a UK British thriller, juvenile delinquents on an island, and the island's all booby-trapped, and they gotta survive, but it's called Wilderness. But the script first of all, each and every character you do not give a flying fuck about. They are all such unlikable dipshits. None of them have any sort of character arc to them whatsoever. The script is really lazy. There's a twist ending that's geared as to being a twist. That is not a twist at all because of the way the movie's set up. It's like, well, it's not really a twist. That's kind of the most logical thing that you would expect out of the setup of this. And like I said, your characters are terrible. It's filmed very amateurish and kind of poorly. The person who ends up being a hero is like a random character that was introduced halfway through the film, and you're just like, what? So this should have been a lot better, and it should have been so much more up my alley, but the script really let this one down. I was not into this one. Sorry. And I was in the mood for a goofy comedy again, so down Periscope, because I watched it was an episode of The Simpsons called Simpsons Tide, where Homer, Moe, Barney, all that, like, they join the Navy and they're on a submarine, which is basically a parody of this film, because they both have, that song, In the Navy, and because this ends with that music video, which is parodied in that Simpsons episode. Again, there's funny moments in it, and I was definitely entertained watching it, but it wasn't, again, the humor in this is very unbalanced between being almost like a kid's family movie, but then you have jokes about how Kelsey Grammer, his dick is tattooed with, like, welcome aboard or all aboard or something like that. It's like, again, you've got, it's rated PG-13, and I think that speaks to the unbalance of the humor. I wish this just kind of went hard R or something like that. But it's entertaining, it's 90s, it's charming enough, and, it's fun seeing a less serious Kelsey Grammer in something like that. But now again, Magnolia Home Entertainment, the fact that we are releasing new movies to DVD and nothing else, like you can release it to DVD all you want. That's not my problem. There's probably still people out there who only buy DVDs, but it's 2024. Why are we not also giving this a Blu-ray option? It's 2025. This film was 2024. Like, why? And it's a damn shame because I ended up absolutely loving this movie. And it's like, well, now, hopefully one day it gets a Blu-ray that I can upgrade to, because I wanted to still buy it so I could support the format and physical media metrics, because I thought this was absolutely fucking hilarious. And I have never heard anyone talk about this in the last year since it came out. And it's a bowling comedy called The Gutter, starring Shameik Moore, who was the voice in that new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse cartoon, which I never saw, but I think he was the voice of that. You got Paul Reiser and Susan Sarandon in here. Susan Sarandon is your big villain. You've seen movies like Kingpin and stuff like that. It's like, okay, it's hard not to compare it. But this was such a madcap, crazy, so refreshingly un-PC, hard R comedy that I could not help but fall in love with this. I never thought we would see a movie like this again, especially about bowling, of all things. And I found myself cracking up, laughing my ass off through this entire thing. And it's, if you like your goofy, absurdist, slapstick, madcap, hard R, offensive comedy, this checked all the boxes and it was refreshing as hell. I love this, and as a guy who has a bachelor's degree in comedy that I obtained at the Second City here in Chicago, I can tell you this gets my glowing recommendation. And can I also say, for a movie that came out in 2024, Susan Sarandon is currently 78 years old, which means at the bare minimum when this was being filmed, she's probably, 76, 77? Susan Sarandon looks incredible. Incredible in this. Like, I'd get with her. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, how? 78 years old. She found a fountain of youth or something. And then last but not least, one more Blu-ray of a TV show. Of course, I watched this when it originally aired on Paramount Plus. But I want to support the physical media, and it's a show I love with an actor I love. I want to own it. So I picked up Season 2 of Tulsa King. Season 3 is currently in production right now, and I cannot wait for it because, again, this season ends on a cliffhanger similar to the first one. In this season, they bring in Neil McDonough. They bring in Frank Grillo. And the story, there's a lot more villains. There's a lot more action in this season. It's less the fish out of water kind of crime dramedy that the first season was. Now this one, we're starting to really get into the action. And with all the bad kind of direct-to-video movies Stallone has been doing lately, this character is this is one of his best characters that he's played in years. Dwight Manfredi, he gets into that role and he is that character. And I love him. And now you got him going against Neil McDonough. You got Frank Grillo in there. And I love it. Frank Grillo is such an underrated presence and stuff like this. I'm glad to see him in something a bit more mainstream, like a Taylor Sheridan show like this. Garrett Hedlund, he's awesome. Yeah, I have nothing but positive things to say about Tulsa King. Bring on Season 3, especially with the way this season ends. I'm all for it. So there we go. And that was my Good Friday update. My next update is probably going to be in June, and usually every June I like doing the summer update. So I'm currently on the prowl for films that are like very summer themed or summer vacation or vacation themed. So if anyone has any recommendations or suggestions for good summer movies, please put them in the comments below because I'm currently on the hunt for stuff for the June update. Going to make that all about summer, or at least mostly summer. And bar none, Good Friday, so I wish everyone a happy Easter, happy weekend, family, friend, bunny, eggs, Jesus, whatever your weekend consists of. I hope it's a good one. And we will see you all in the next video, everybody. Thank you for watching.